Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I pray you're well. Okay, let's resume seeking the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through His book, Al-Fatiha. Bismillah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallama wa baraka ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'una wanfa'na bima 'allamtana وامنحنا يا ربنا علما وعملا وقربا يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أكرمنا ولا تهنا وأعطنا ولا تحرمنا وآثرنا ولا تؤثر علينا وأرضنا وارض عنا يا أكرم الأكرمين ويا أرحم الراحمين ويا ذا الجلال والإكرام. So Alhamdulillah, we've been looking at the discussion regarding the Bani Israel and the Ahlul Kitab, who are, the label that broadly encompasses the Jews and the Christians, and specifically those who were there, the contemporaries in the time of the Prophet, talking about the things they did that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deemed as crimes. And so let's continue, and then anyone that shares in these crimes would be associated with them, right? Just as they were associated with the crimes that they agreed with of their ancestors. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they rejected Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala now shows us that He's going to make this manifest. So this applies to the Jews and the Christians. This verse, let's look at it, and I'll talk about the ikhtilaf regarding the meaning of this. He says, وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ قَبْلَ مَوْتِهِ وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا. Every one of the people of the book will believe in him before his death. And on the day of judgment, Jesus will be a witness against them. Okay, so firstly, I just want to highlight this point. Is this verse starts is in, and this in, it goes with this illa. In illa, it's a double negative, the strongest double negative construction in Arabic. So it's the strongest form of emphasis using this style. Absolutely, without a doubt, every single individual from the Ahlul Kitab, right? So that's what he's saying. Everyone from the time of when this verse was revealed, and maybe before, Allah knows, but from the time of the verse was revealed until the last one of the Ahlul Kitab to pass away, everyone is included, every Jew and every Christian. So who is this verse about? So if the wording is being translated in an open way, just like the Arabic comes, every one of the people of the book will definitely believe in him before his death. Who will they believe in? So this him is going and referring to the Prophet Jesus. That's who it's going back to. The pronoun is referring to him. Before his death. Before whose death? So there are two opinions. So the one opinion is that the verse is referring to Jesus alayhi salatu wasalam, saying that the Prophet Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, before he passes away, because we believe that he's still alive, so before he passes away, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show everyone who's alive that of the Jews and the Christians that he is the messenger of God, right? He is the servant of God. He was the Messiah who the Jews should have believed in, and he is the servant of God and not his son, right? So that's the position. So Sayyidina Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he narrated from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. He said, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِي بِيَدِهِ, the Prophet said sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I swear by the one in whose hand is my soul. لَيُوشِكَنَّ أَنْ يَنْزِلَ فِيكُمْ إِبْنُ مَرْيَمْ. It's close, so close that the son of Mary will descend to you, right? حَكَمًا عَدْلًا, as a fair and just judge. He'll judge in the matters of belief, whose belief is correct, whose isn't. فَيَكْسِرُ الصَّلِيبِ وَيَقْتُلَ الْخِنْزِيرِ, and he will break the crucifix and kill the swine, kill the pig, right? Which the ulama have interpreted as this will end Christianity. As a religion, he will come and say, "Well, you believe that I." Well, they will say, he will say to them that you believe that I was God. It's not the case, and he will show them that he is Jesus, and he never was God, or the Son of God, or anything like this. Rather, he was a servant and messenger of God. And وَيَضَعُ الْجِزْيَةَ, and he will stop the taking of the jizya. So when the non-Muslims live in a Muslim land, they pay a tax. We've talked about this recently. ويفيض المال حتى لا يقبله أحدا, and wealth will flow. It'll be a time of prosperity after he comes, to the point that no one will accept wealth. Like, people will be content and they've got too much, like, what, you can't even spend it, وحتى تكون السجدة خيرا له من الدنيا وما فيها, such that a single prostration will be better for an individual than the entire world and everything in it, right? The true value of it, right? They won't value the other things. So that's one position, that the verse is saying that before the death of Jesus, every one of the Ahlul Kitab will believe in him. The second position that the scholars have mentioned, like Abu Saud and Zamakhshari and others, they've said that the verse is saying every single one of the people of the book will certainly believe in Jesus, meaning the proper belief that he is the messenger of God and the servant of God, before his own death, before the death of that individual believer in Christianity or Judaism. That person, so everyone alive who believes in Judaism, whether they know it or they just haven't bothered to search for the truth, every one of these people, from the time of the verse is revealed, we can say, possibly before Allah knows best, until the day of judgment, until the last of them to die, before his death, he will believe in it. So the ulama have said, this is a position of Abdullah ibn Abbas as well, and others of the scholars of Islam and the Tabi'een. So this is what they will believe. I won't go into the details of whose position it was, but they will believe in him with certainty. And look at it, it's also, so why will they believe in him? One, it's a threat now that so they'll believe in him at a time where belief won't benefit. Meaning that when the soul is coming out, Iman is of no value. So a disbeliever, when the soul gets to the throat as it's coming out and the veil is lifted and he'll see the angels and his place in hell, or if he at that moment, if he believes, it's too late, tough, because what's required of us is belief in things unseen but proven. And if you want to ignore the proof and say that I can't see, if I don't see it, it doesn't exist, unfortunately, it's they're the rules, right? So Allah has decided he will not accept the faith of such a person. But even seconds before that, before he gets to this stage, if he believes, fair enough, right? Everything, a lifetime of sins can be wiped away. So that's one matter here. So they will see him, and this is a threat for someone who is choosing not to believe in him or not to even go search for the truth. That's one thing. And it's also a way of hastening them. Be quick, go, before your death comes, go believe, or go find out the truth, because it is the truth. You just have to expose yourselves to it, right? So go. So that's what the verse is doing. So before any of these individuals die, they will see that Sayyidina Isa alayhi salatu wasalam is a servant, a messenger of God, and he's not God. So for the Christians, the aspect is on him not being God, and that he's a messenger. And for the Jewish people, the emphasis is on that, yes, he was a messenger and you rejected him, right? So this will certainly happen. And look at the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it. وَإِن مِّن أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ, from the Ahl Kitab, the Jews and the Christians, the people of the book, they should know better. You have a book that proves this, the proofs of him being the Messiah in the book, right? And for people who live in times after the book was corrupted, there are other ways of concluding the truth, right? Just looking at theology, like how can he be God, right? When he's in need, God doesn't need. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about Jesus and Mary, Kana ya'kulani ta'am. They both ate food. And as human beings, the natural consequences of that is that you have to answer the call of nature. You have to remove the harmful waste that comes from the fruit from your body. Is that something a divine deity would do? Absolutely not. So there's but if he was corrupted, so we know that the position of Imam al-Ghazali and others is someone who doesn't know the truth, had no way of finding the truth, and he's just in the dark. He just didn't know it, and just happened to believe this because he grew up in a Christian environment, in a Christian family, had never had access to learning or the tools or whatever. On the Day of Judgment, inshallah ta'ala, he will have an excuse, and he'll be pardoned. That's the position of the Ash'ari, and what Imam al-Ghazali says about this. And anyone else who's received a distorted version of Islam without having recourse to go and find out about what the truth actually is. So, but anyone else, those who knew and then hid it or didn't, just chose to ignore it, every single one of them, وَإِن مِّنْ أَهْلِ الْكِتَابِ إِلَّا لَيُؤْمِنَنَّ بِهِ, without a doubt, certainly they will believe in him. That before their death, they will be given so much conclusive evidence, and it'll be presented to them in a way that they cannot deny. They will certainly believe that he is the messenger of God and his servant, and not his son. And but look at the word qabla mawtihi. Normally when you have qabla, it means way before, but what's being said is that it's in his last moments. This will be shown to him when belief isn't accepted, faith isn't accepted, but he'll be shown it in his last moments, and it will seem like a long time. Time is relative, right? And you're someone who's enjoying something, that they're in the zone, for example, right? Time passes really quickly. Someone who's really bored, and I almost had to go on a speed awareness course. I wasn't, I tried to drive in the speed limit, and one time I just went onto a road, and I don't know, I was doing a bit more than the speed limit. I was doing 36. And I knew that there's a camera there, because that's a route I normally take, and most of the time there's a camera there. There's like a speed trap, and I don't know why, but it was meant to be anyway. So I got flashed, and they said you can either pay a fine, or you take the 3 points, or you can go on a speed awareness course. So I went on a speed awareness course, and it was from 9 a.m. till 12:30 or something. And those 3 hours or so were the slowest 3 hours I experienced in a long time. Just sat alone, in a room with no activities would have been that time would have passed quicker for me, right? But so this person, before his death, he's shown this, and it feels like a long time for him. Why? So that regret and remorse is the beginning of the punishment. The regret and remorse, you had every opportunity and you chose to reject. This is it. Now know that what you did was wrong, and here are the consequences, right? A'udhu billah. So hasten, do something now. Right? If you have any doubts, is Jesus God? Go find a scholar of Islam. Read Bart Ehrman's books, and see that how much doubt the Christians have in this matter. Right? Find out the truth. He was not God. Right? And so وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ, not only that, on the day of judgment, on the day of resurrection, everyone stands before Allah for judgment. يَكُونُ عَلَيْهِمْ شَهِيدًا, he is going to be a witness against them. عَلَيْهِمْ, Allah, over them. So it's really for their detriment. He's going to say that I came and I said I'm a messenger of God. These people rejected me, and these other people twisted the narrative and said that I'm the son of God, or I'm God himself. Right? So what benefit is their faith in a fictional portrayal of a messenger going to bring them? Nothing. especially when that messenger is against them. So there are the two positions, and the stronger one is this latter one. Every single one of them before their death will realize this. And Sayyid Tantawi says we can combine the two meanings, which there's no issue here either, because the hadith that was narrated will happen, that the Prophet said. But the question is that hadith what this verse is talking about? Not entirely. The meaning I've said, that every single individual, that's what the meaning, and that's what the verse is talking about, right? So then we have another reason why they were given a difficult time, because of their own wrongdoing. فَبِظُلْمٍ مِّنَ الَّذِينَ هَادُوا حَرَّمْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ طَيِّبَاتٍ أُحِلَّتْ لَهُمْ وَبِصَدِّهِمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ كَثِيرًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forbade things for them. Why? Two reasons are mentioned here. We forbade the Jews certain foods that had been lawful for them for their wrongdoing, and for hindering many from the way of Allah. Okay, so he says, so as a consequence, right, of the way they are, punishments came to them, and their choices and how they were with the messenger and other messengers in the past. So because of that, so things, tayyibat, delicious things, right? So something that's tayyib, I believe the root word comes from a fragrance, right? So tib is a fragrant perfume. Something that's tayyib, fa'il, is incredibly good, wholesome, nice, delicious. Now, when it comes to food, you translate it as delicious. So good, luscious, delicious foods and things that contribute to making foods delicious were made forbidden for them. Why? For بِظُلْمٍ, because of really, really bad dhulm, wrongdoing. Remember, dhulm is treating something in an inappropriate way, or you could say putting something in other than its proper place, right? So instead of having their bodies and their belief, in unison and in agreement with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded, it's in disagreement, right? So instead of there being obedience, there was deliberate gross disobedience. That's why. So he uses the term of dhulm. He didn't say ma'siyah or sins, but he uses dhulm, right, which the word is also in some context used for oppression. So because of severe wrongdoing, and it's indefinite, for بِظُلْمٍ مِّنَ الَّذِينَ هَادُوا, from you can say from certain, we forbade the Jews, he said, but the word hadu comes from the word, a word that means tawbah, repentance, right? Inna hudna ilayk, in a different ayah, that we return to you when, after they worshipped the cow, they repented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they had to kill those who worshipped the cow as a punishment for them. And so they said, now we've turned back to you fully. So even after they supposedly repented from this horrible crime and they turned to Allah, even after that they committed gross wrong actions, dhulmin, right? So it just makes it even worse in this context. So because of that, and because of what's coming, حَرَّمْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ طَيِّبَاتٍ, many delicious things that were permissible for them, we made them impermissible, right, for them. Such as, the fat of certain animals, it has taste, it gives taste to the food that you cook with. Other things were made difficult, like I said, about impure clothing, they had to cut it off. They couldn't just wash it, we just wash it, right? So there were a number of types of food that were permissible for them, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said they're now impermissible for you people, because as a punishment for those horrible crimes. Not only that, they went and lied about it. They started saying, no, these things were already, they said, for example, we're not the first people who these things are forbidden for. They were forbidden for Noah and Abraham and and those after them until the matters reached us. So they were saying, look, they're not forbidden for us just because of who we are and what we've done. They've always been forbidden, which was a lie. So they're lying about God, lying, ascribing lies to God, and on top of their existing dhulm, right, to try and cover the fact up that they were disobeying God, a'udhu billah, right? So a horrible action. So Allah says, so because of these wrongdoings, horrible bad actions, gross disobedience, Allah made these delicious foods, which was a blessing in the first place that He gave them to these people. He made them forbidden for them. For that reason, وَبِصَدِّهِمْ, just listen to the sword and the strong sound on the dal. فَبِصَدِّهِمْ and sabillah, and then literally blocking the way of God. So you can the sabil of Allah, the way of God, the way to God, the way to getting closer to God, serving God, worshipping God, fulfilling your life's purpose. All of these things, they blocked people from the way of God. So you can understand this as they blocked many people from the way of God, as it's translated here, or they did it much. And both meanings can be combined. So many times they diverted and they blocked many people from turning to God. Horrible action. You're supposed to want people. So as Muslims, we want people to be saved in the afterlife. We want people to go to paradise. No, who would want some? Someone could say, okay, so and so wronged me, I want them to be punished in the hellfire. That's one thing, right? But generally, just looking at humanity at large, we want people to go to paradise. We don't want people, to end up in hell. It's a horrible place. Allah doesn't want us to go there. That's why He sent the messengers, messengers to guide us. So, and the Prophet ﷺ wanted to save people from it. So this is how it is. So look at all of this. These are the reasons why they were made forbidden for them. And here's another one. وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَى وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ. Number 3, and them taking akhd. You can almost say like greedily taking. وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَى. With avarice, taking them, riba, and to the point that it was almost like an identifying, distinguishing feature of them. Like look at, was it Shylock in The Merchant of Venice? Interest, right? وَأَخْذِهِمُ الرِّبَى وَقَدْ نُهُوا عَنْهُ, whilst they had been forbidden from it. Don't deal in interest, don't take interest, but they're going around dealing in interest. That's why, was it, I believe in the Bible, it says that Jesus went and upturned the tables of the usurers in that description in the Bible. And so they were forbidden from doing it, and they, played some legal games, and they're like, oh look, we can take it. وَأَكْلِهِمْ أَمْوَالَ النَّاسِ بِالْبَاطِلِ, and them, so taking interest despite its prohibition, and in the Arabic, despite the fact that they were forbidden from it. So if they were forbidden from it, it's a forbidden act, it's haram. Why are you doing it? Right? And وَأَكْلِهِمْ, and them eating the property or the wealth of people, بِالْبَاطِل, the entire act was surrounded by falsehood, that this is wrong in every way, shape and form, such as bribery, taking bribery, right, and other forms, misappropriating people's wealth. And the same description that's in the earlier part of the surah of misappropriating, wealth with greed and avarice is described as eating it, because a greedy person just gorges down whatever's in front of him, right, as quickly and as much as possible. So them wrongfully misappropriating the wealth of people. For all these reasons, those permissible things were made impermissible for them. وَأَعْتَدْنَا لِلْكَافِرِينَ مِنْهُمْ عَذَابًا أَلِيمًا, and we have prepared, remember i'tidad is for like warfare, for the disbelievers amongst them. So it's showing that these acts were bad enough, But when coupled with their disbelief, the horrible punishment came. The punishment of the dunya might have been because of their acts, but their disbelief and rejecting the messengers and all the other disbelief, that's why the punishment is going to come to them. Adhaban aliman. We've prepared a very, very, very painful punishment for them. Both of the words adhab and alim, indefinite, to show it's beyond description. Only Allah knows the true reality of it. Allah protect us from it and anything even close to it. All of his punishment. But then he says, but those of them well grounded in knowledge, لكن الراسخون في العلم منهم. So the previous, for the disbelievers from amongst them. So there could have been some. So he's saying minhum, from amongst them, earlier, because some of them changed and they became believers even after doing these. So their sins were wiped away. Hint, hint, believe and save yourselves from this, right? And then then he says, لكن الراسخون في العلم منهم, but those of them well grounded in knowledge, والمؤمنون, and the believers, يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك, and they believe in you and what was revealed before you. والمقيمين الصلاة والمؤتون الزكاة والمؤمنون بالله واليوم الآخر, and especially those who establish the prayer, they're highlighted, right? And those who pay alms, tax, zakat, and believe in Allah and the last day, to these people we will grant أولئك سنؤتيهم أجرا عظيما, we will give them a tremendous, amazing wage. So let's break this down. So he says that's their punishment, the previous group. But الراسخون في العلم, those who are firmly rooted and grounded in knowledge. Who is this? They were the people of knowledge, the rabbis and the laymen who understood the point of revelation, and they understood that it's to believe in God on his terms. So when the Prophet Muhammad came, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with proofs, they believed that, okay, he's the messenger, his teaching is the true teaching, everything else has been distorted. So they were the ones who were firm in knowledge. Who are they? They're the ones who became believers. Why? Why is it expressed like this? Because their belief led them to knowledge. And then we're going to get a number of descriptions now. All of them are talking about the same group. Those who saw the good, accepted it, believed it, and did it. But they're mentioned as though they're separate categories of people. Important point here. They're mentioned as though they're separate categories of people. Those who do this. It's like, like an owner of a business or a company saying at the end of the year, those people who work in the accounting department will get bonuses. Those people who work in the customer service department will get bonuses. Those people who work in the sales department will get bonuses. Those people who work in the distribution department will get bonuses. And imagine that there's only the accounting, customer service, sales and distribution departments in the company. Right? What he's saying is they're all going to get bonuses. But he's highlighting each and every one for their good work. That's what he's doing. So each quality is something significant. So he says, but rather those who are rooted in knowledge from amongst them, الراسخون في العلم منهم, from them, from this previous group, hint, hint, be like these people, change. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ, and those who are firm, unshakable in their faith. The proof to get them there is here. Right? So those who's had this knowledge and then they believe and they were firm, like Abdullah ibn Salam and others, what do? يُؤْمِنُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ. They believe in all that was revealed to you, especially the point that Jesus was a messenger and that his mother was a servant of God. That they weren't both divine, as the Christians think, and let alone anything else, all the accusations that were leveled against Mary and Jesus. So they believe in what was revealed to you, O messenger, meaning Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. وَمَا أُنزِلَ مِن قَبْلِكَ, and that which has been revealed before you. But the word is min qablik, just before you. It was hundreds of years, but it's expressed as just before you because it's all the same. So it's like someone who's come and told you something, and then 2 minutes later he's gone and given the same message to someone else. You can say in that person, you can say to him, look, you heard it just after me. So it hasn't been changed or distorted. It's the same thing, just showing just how close the original message that was revealed to the earlier prophets is to what was revealed to Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the final messenger. And then they all believe in what was being revealed to you and all the previous prophets, as do wal muqimeen as-salata, those who perfect, especially those who perfect the prayer. So the word muqim, iqama, I translate it as those who perfect the prayer. So inwardly there's presence of heart with God, yeah, and outwardly, so there's understanding of who you stood before, what you're saying, there's a appreciation of God, devotion, submission, worship of God, and the outward actions are done properly. That's iqama. But then the standards Arabic structure would have been والراسخون والمؤمنون والمقيمون, but it's been changed to والمقيمين to really highlight this particular point. So والمقيمين, they really, with devotion and love, and they really perfect the prayer. And what else do they do? وَالْمُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ. Why is the prayer given this focus? Because that's what the whole point of faith is, this connection to God, right? So they express that through their prayer. وَالْمُؤْتُونَ الزَّكَاةَ, and those who diligently give the zakat, whenever it's due on them, they pay it. Right? So this is where the benefit goes to the wider community, but they do it, they don't hold back. وَالْمُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ وَالْيَوْمِ الْآخِرِ, and they believe in Allah, the Supreme King, and in the final day, and in the last day. So as we've seen, as Abu Su'ud has said in other places, saying belief in Allah and the last day implies belief in Allah and His messengers and the angels and the books and destiny. All of these things are just condensed into the first part that's mentioned and the last part. So belief in Allah, and then the meeting with Allah on the last day where the judgment and the recompense occurs. So what about all of these people starting? Well, it's the same group, but with these different, varying, brilliant, amazing qualities, all of them together, ulaika, those lofty, amazing, fantastic people who have, and the focus when you're saying ulaika goes back to each of these individual traits, all of them, sanu'tihim, a promise, soon, with a promise that will never be broken, soon, we, the royal we, the Supreme King is promising this, so it's going to be amazing. We will give them. So ita, obviously, as I've said recently, that the meaning is giving in vast amounts. So nu'tihim, we will give them vast amounts, ajran, a wage. And this is an honoring, because Allah doesn't owe us anything. Someone could worship, like there's a hadith of the man who worshipped Allah for, was it 500 years or 1,000 years? And he's told on the day of judgment he'll be told enter paradise through the mercy of God, and he's like, the mercy of God, what about all my worship? And then so Allah will tell the angels, okay, just wear the blessing of eyesight. And so they do so, and 500 years of worship is nothing compared to just having the blessing of eyesight. So he's like, okay, by your mercy, right? So he goes to paradise like that. So Allah doesn't owe us anything, but when He says do this work and He rewards us, He calls it a wage, when in reality it's a pure gift, right? So He honors us with this expression, indefinite ajran, and then aziman, huge. Ajran is huge in and of itself. The word nu'ti implies it's massive, and then azim on its own implies it's beyond description in size. It's just wow, right? Aziman, and then both these words are indefinite to further highlight the meaning that it's something only Allah Himself can really know, right? So wow, may Allah give us this reward of His pure generosity. Okay, let's stop here and we'll continue from this point, inshallah ta'ala. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.